Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now we are blazing through the Poppy Wars, and this time I promise we are covering part 1 of The Burning God. But before we get into it, Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
Okay, so I only have books this week, so we will keep it short. 2 of them are ones that I was going to talk about in the last episode, then it got so long. I was like,
We talked for so long on just a catch-up episode.
Yes.
But honestly, one of my favorite episodes ever, so.
We will not do that this time. We are strictly business today. And because we are strictly business, I'm going to talk about Percy Jackson.
Oh.
Because that is one of the books that I read. I read The Titan's Curse. It's the 3rd book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series by Rick Riordan. Okay. I really like those books. They are so cute. Like, setting aside, like, there are some problematic terms and language used because they were made they're written a long time ago.
Right.
But I think the author has grown and is trying hard in the work that he has put out recently to change some of his wording of things. Mm-hmm. I'll just give a brief example. He refers to certain characters as wheelchair bound instead of like wheelchair user.
Okay.
Things like that. So he is doing a good job improving, but I really like these Percy Jackson books just because I think Percy is a good protagonist, like a boy protagonist.
Right.
If that makes sense. He works through his emotions. He's considerate of other characters. He literally has thoughts where he'll be like, it seemed like so-and-so didn't want to talk about that at the moment, but I thought maybe I would ask them about it later if they were willing to share. I'm like, okay, what a thoughtful 11-year-old.
Yeah, that's so nice.
And he also processes his own emotions and talks about like his feelings. He has positive friendships. He has a parent that he cares about, and he also has a parent that he's not close with. A lot of them have parental issues because it's a demigod situation. I mean, but I really think that the way that they depict friendships and working through your feelings and tough times is really good. Honestly, like this is a pretty good middle grade series, and I kind of wish I would have read it when I was younger. I was just kind of too old when this was a popular thing, I think.
Right.
I think we were just on the brink, but it's definitely a series that I would recommend to people with kids, or I don't really know any kids. So I would recommend it to people who have kids. And, you know, it's definitely a series to be like, okay, well, there are certain things that are outdated, but I'm going to move forward with his work too and read some of his newer books, I think, after I've finished all of these. And I'm hopeful that he's done the work. I know that he is doing a good job putting together this casting for his TV show, or helping cast this Disney Plus TV show, and I've been really happy with the way that he has kind of clapped back at people who are like, that's not what Annabeth looks like, and he's like, yes it is. So
okay, so I do have a question for you. This won't get into too long of a tangent to everyone, but everyone makes a big deal about Annabeth's blonde hair and her eye color. Are those actually that big of a deal in the books?
I mean, it's mentioned a few times, but it's literally not like those. It's not like those have to be defining characteristics of her. You know what I mean?
I just don't understand why people are like so obsessed with the fact that she is like very blonde and has some kind of colored eyes. I can't remember.
I don't see any problem with making this a person of color. I don't see the issue here, because beyond just a few mentions of her being blonde, I don't think it's that big of a deal. And it's honestly not central to her character or anything. It's not like a core trait that is like something related to her power or anything like that. Like, her power is wisdom. Okay. So like, okay. Anybody can be wise.
Right. Well, and
no
I don't
matter
think she
what
was
their hair
blonde
color
in the original movies, so like, who cares?
And
I don't know.
It's exactly, she was a brunette in the original movies, so what's the big deal? Yeah. But yeah, I think people just want to whine about something and are racist. So
she was like a brunette in the movies and 1,000,000 years old. Like,
yeah, they were way too old for the age that they were supposed to be, because they're like 18 in those movies, or possibly older.
He's supposed to be 16 in the movies, apparently, but
Yeah.
that girl was not 16.
Well, and even
Alexandra
like
Daddario
and even Grover, like I watched the first movie not that long ago, and Grover is very old and is very much considering getting down with Persephone. So let's just say 11-year-olds are not probably that interested. But
oh my gosh.
Because like in the books, it's definitely like a Percy and Annabeth kind of have this thing where you can tell that Percy thinks Annabeth is cute.
Right.
But it's in a 12-year-old, 11-year-old way.
Yeah. No.
So
Alexandra Daddario in that movie was 24 years old. And I just remember that because for a while we thought we could cast Alexandra Daddario in any age role she wanted to be. Like any age. She could be 12.
She was doing like
be
random rom-coms
36.
with adults, and it's like, wow, she looks way too young. She was on New Girl as like a small role, and I'm like, she looks a lot younger than these guys that are hitting on her.
Right?
But, okay.
She was always like way too young or way too old, and it was never the right place.
Her eyes somewhat scare me. They're they're like strikingly blue to the point that I'm like, if I saw her in real life, I may be a little bit afraid. But her eyes are so blue.
They're very blue. She was in
Baywatch also.
Yeah, I mean the one thing I know her of that I never watched. I mean, she was in The White Lotus, which I watched part of, and then heard a lot of native Hawaiians have a lot of things to say, so I stopped watching it. But she played in We Have Always Lived in This Castle, which was a really good book that I read once by Shirley Jackson. So
yeah,
I never saw the movie though, because
she was in some rom-com that I watched, and
Can you keep a secret?
No, it was like a flashback one with Adam Devine.
I know
what he was
talking about.
In love with her and kept like going back in time, thinking that she was going to fall in love with him, and never happened. And then
when we first met.
Yes, that's it. And she didn't really stand out to me in that movie, I guess.
Okay, so I don't really like Alexandra Daddario very much.
She's fine, but I just don't get the appeal.
I don't get the appeal. Like, I have nothing against this woman, but every time I see her, I dislike what is coming.
I'm just like, this is a very bland role.
Understand
I don't know
how, like, she may just become one of those people where I'm like, she's never been in a movie ever. And it's like, she's been in many movies. And I'm just like, not in my mind, she hasn't.
Right. Right. I know exactly what you're saying.
I remember she was in White Collar. That was like what I knew her from, because she was the girlfriend in White Collar. Around the time she was in Percy Jackson and the Olympians, which is why I was probably like, she's too old for that.
You know what? I am Googling this now. Like, how old is Percy Jackson?
She's playing Matt Bomer's love interest and Percy Jackson's love interest.
Okay, so I just Googled it. In the Lightning Thief, Percy is 12 years old. So I think probably in the second one he's 13. So in the third one he's probably 14, because that's how these things usually work. But
like, he was played by Logan Lerman in the movies, and Logan Lerman was born in 1992. And
he's the same age as me. He's 30 years old.
And Alexandra Daddario was born in 1986. So like...
way too old.
Old for that. Like, I'm not saying young people can't have older love interests, but like, it was okay. So the original movie was in 2010. He was born in 1992. So he was 18 when they filmed that, and she was 24. Like,
that's way too old.
I just don't understand. That was like all these people who are freaking out about Annabeth being a black child. Why were you not freaking out that she was played by a full grown
Why were you not
woman?
Freaking out about the possible statutory rape? Like, come on. Annabeth was way too old for Percy.
Just really inappropriate. I don't know why I had that like as a memory, but it is a core memory that it always bothered me, that I'm like, she is an adult woman in White Collar. Why did they let her play child?
I never watched White Collar, but I'm not a fan of those Percy Jackson movies, honestly.
Okay.
Like,
I've never seen
they're
them.
not good. They're not good. But it's one of those things where if they're on, I will definitely watch them.
Okay. Yes,
Like,
you have to have those.
I don't know why, but it's one of those, if you're like scrolling through and you're like, oh, Percy Jackson's on. Okay, I'll watch it. You've seen a million times, but you're just like, this is awful. How did Uma Thurman sign on for this? Just why?
Oh, she just needed some money.
There were so many big names in that movie too. Where I'm like, come on.
Well, because they thought it was going to be like the next Harry Potter, but they cast a
Epic
24-year-old woman.
Fail. Epic fail. Pierce Brosnan signed on to that. They should have known. He signs on to things and it's almost just like, oh, he can't do these type of roles. They made him the centaur. Like, come on. He was Chiron. And
okay.
Whenever he tries to do some kind of different accent, I'm just out.
Yeah.
Him and Mamma Mia, like Mamma Mia, I love that musical and I love that movie, but his casting in that was terrible.
I mean, that movie is, don't you know, like the behind the scenes was they were all just wasted off their butts for that entire film.
I've heard that. I didn't know if it was true.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was true. Like they were all just there to go to Greece.
Sometimes I listen to that soundtrack and I like whenever his parts come on, I just laugh. It makes me so happy to hear
but
him
also,
singing.
Colin Firth was not a great singer in that either.
No, he was not
I
either.
can still recall our last summer. Laughing in the rain.
They are just. Oh, and I see that Sean Bean is in Percy Jackson too. Oh yeah, I think he was Zeus. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm looking through this
That's
casting
okay.
because I'm
Guys,
like,
don't watch
there's
those movies.
too many. Steve Coogan was in this as Hades. Yeah, that's right. Because that's who they chose to play the cool guy. Weird. Yeah. Rosario
that guy.
Dawson.
Weird.
Like, no, why were you in this? Yeah.
Okay. Well,
but Percy Jackson, the book series, good.
There's a reason they're getting remade, guys. It's to make them good.
Yes. They're making them better. They're casting age-appropriate actors.
Brendan T. Jackson was born in 1984. Like, why were they casting full-grown adults for these movies?
He is 40 years old.
He's 38 now. It was made a while ago, but he was like in his like late
We're just gonna
20s.
pretend it was made like last year. Like he was 38 years old and playing a 14-year-old.
Oh God.
Don't even come at me, people who are like, well, we don't actually know how old satyrs are. They age different. I don't care. He was too old for a junior high role. Come on. Hannah, the other book that I read was The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna.
What did you think of it?
I really liked it.
Is it cute?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was cute.
Okay. It's dark and horrifying.
I would say it's very dark, actually, but
yeah, it was surprisingly dark. Like I was really shocked they went that hard in the first couple.
That's
chapters.
The one that you were like, what makes a book YA? And yeah, I think it's in this one, like the topics are very dark and what happens is like really scary. And I think that it's definitely just the age of the protagonist is what makes it a YA book.
Yeah, and them explaining some of the harder words to a reader because they did.
But they didn't even do that too much. So
no, it happened like once or twice. But it's like okay,
it wasn't like Lemony Snicket where they're like, so and so wanted to be a cartographer, which was a terrible choice because map making was never a popular career. Like, okay, come on, thank you, Lemony Snicket.
I mean,
but
you are an adult reading these. So.
I read them when I was in second and third grade, so I did want to be a cartographer because of those books at a certain point in time. That's why I specifically remember that.
Oh, okay.
But The Gilded Ones is, you've talked about this before, but it's about a country that believes in purity of blood, and when women reach a certain age, they have to participate in this ceremony where they have to have some of their blood. I think they're cut, if I'm remembering right. They're cut. Yes. And I'm sorry, this is kind of triggering. So if you have issues with blood or anything like that, please come back in maybe 2 minutes minutes.
Yeah.
But they perform a ceremony where they have to show some of their blood, and if their blood is pure, it looks normal, and if it's not pure, their blood looks gold. And they're considered like kind of like witches, basically.
Yes.
But as we go on, we kind of follow the main character, as she learns that she is one of these people that is kind of considered like not pure or whatever, and she ends up being a bodyguard type person for the
like a soldier
king. The king, yeah. And you learn that he's kind of militarizing these people from all over the nation, and you don't necessarily know why until later on in the book, and then you kind of figure out, oh, something nefarious is going on here. And it ends on a pretty good cliffhanger, honestly. Not necessarily a cliffhanger, there is resolution, but you want to know what's going to happen next.
Yes.
So I'm interested to read the next one, so there's that.
It's good. You should read
I
it.
really poorly described it, but definitely check it out.
It's almost one you need to experience. Like, it's a book you very much need to read for yourself. So that's why, because like there's a lot of.
I also thought it was just a really interesting like form of fantasy where it was very different from other things that I have read.
Yes, it's very unique, especially with like the golden blood and what it means to be, a gilded one, as it were. And the world building is really unique and interesting. I feel like she brought up a lot of different lore that we don't normally see as often.
Right. And also like the evil, quote unquote, evil characters and what we think about them at the beginning of the book and then towards the end of the book is really well done.
Yes.
So I really liked it. I thought it was a good book. Definitely check it out. I'm interested that wasn't there another one that you said is similar to this?
Yes, that is The Final Strife.
FTF covered that one.
Yes, they did an interview with the author, which was amazing. And it's mostly just the whole blood work. Like, there's different casts based on blood systems. I wrote an RPod review on it if you guys want to check it out.
Yes.
To plug that. But it's similar where that's concerned, but it is more adult in its themes and a lot about like building off the blood as a way to like create magic, where this is more, being able to heal and being able to, so a little bit different, but also very similar.
Yeah. In the gilded ones, their powers kind of vary between each person.
Right.
So yeah. Last but not least, I have done a monstrous buddy read marathon. I've done a lot of monstrous reading this past week and just finished up volume 7. Actually, my bookish bestie on Bookstagram, Jones in the Books. He has been so supportive of me since I joined Bookstagram, and it's always like hard for me, especially, to make new friends. But Bookstagram people are so nice, and Jones in the Books he was always so nice to me. So when we both found out that we both really like monstrous, I was like, oh, we should do a buddy read for volume 7 coming out. Let's read all of them. And so we did, and it was a lot of fun, and we talked about all of the volumes, and we just finished up volume 7 today, and now we're done with our buddy read. But maybe we'll do another one next year when the next volume comes out. But it was a lot of fun, so I highly recommend that if you have not already purchased Monstrous Volume 7, that you get it.
I have it on hold at the library, so it should be coming through.
Okay. I will say that Volume 7 was not one of my favorite volumes, but the art in it is probably one of the best that I can think of at the moment. And I literally read them all within the past week. So the art in it was really impressive and different. So props to Sound Cicada. You were amazing. So yeah. Hannah, what have you been reading and watching?
Well, for watching, I watched the movie Heartbeat Loud. It is a 2018 movie starring Nick Offerman and Kiersey Clemens, and also randomly Ted Danson is in there, and Toni Collette, who I love. But it was really cute. It's like about a dad whose daughter is about to like leave Brooklyn. He runs a record store. He lost his wife when his daughter was really young. And he like, so he raised his daughter, and she like they play music together once a week, and she's about to leave for college. And so he wants them to create music again, and he's trying to convince her to like be in a band with him, and kind of like it's a very interesting movie about letting go and about like family and making connections and everything. And they start a band called We're Not a Band. And like he posts it on Spotify, and he gets people interested, and it's just like so cute to see Nick Offerman, like an excited dad who's just like, we could be doing this, and the daughter's like, I'm planning to go to college, but like trying to figure out what she's passionate about.
I love seeing him in cute roles, because everybody is so used to him just being Ron Swanson that I think he's definitely somebody that has almost been typecast in his real life as being Ron Swanson. And he's like, I'm not Ron Swanson. Like, I am an actor. So that is not how I am in real life. Like, I am married to one of
Megan
the
Mullally.
coolest people ever, who is really into home decorating, like interior design, and is good at so many things. And we travel all over the place and randomly have sex in parks and get in trouble.
Well, and he's like a theater artist. Like he didn't come from television. He came from the theater. So like watching him in this role, it's like very indie. It's very theater based, and it's very interesting. So I really liked it. I thought it was a very cute movie, and everyone should watch it.
I've seen him in a couple episodes of A League of Their Own on Amazon Prime. And it's very different, but he did a really good job. So
good.
But I'll definitely check out that movie. It sounds great.
Yeah, I had to rent it for $3. And the friend I was with was like, don't rent it. And I was like, if I can't afford $3, then I should really watch my grocery store bill.
I mean, I've spent $3 on worse. So
like it's a good indie movie. And I really like Kiersey Clemons. They're like an amazing person who I watched in the show Easy. That I loved because it was all around Chicago. It was a very Chicago show. And I watched it and I was like, I've been there a million times. So
cool. That's always kind of neat to watch a TV show or a movie and you like recognize the places. I like that.
I know. That's I just was talking to my ex-roommate on the phone, and she said The Bear is great because it's very Chicagoan and you can
yeah.
But for reading, I finished the book I was talking about last week, If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffery. It is an award winner now, I believe. Just won a National Book Award, I think. I forget.
Oh, cool.
It's really good. I gave it 4 stars. A little bit of it lost me. Like I kind of was expecting it when I talked about it last week. I was like, oh, it's a lot like Homegoing, where you're just jumping from person. That I was lying. I didn't know, but
jump the gun on it.
It jumps between a couple of the family members, but it's mostly a very specific son who we like see go through periods of like being unhoused. He goes through a lot of like immigration guilt and being like a son of America, and also like being bitter towards his family for taking things from him. And it's a very interesting story. I liked it a lot. I thought it was very well written. Escoffery is obviously going to be like big. He writes so beautifully. You can really feel the like complexities of the characters, and we're like coming in at random moments of their lives, so we can see how they shifted as people. And it's a very interesting look. And the end was kind of a little heartbreaking. So it's kind of like almost unresolved at the end. So, that's very good. And then I also read Ring Shout by P. Deli Clark.
This is on my TBR.
Is so good. Hannah usually doesn't like spooky. This was pretty spooky. It's a really short book, and honestly, guys, read it for Halloween. It's the perfect time to read this book. It is just like, it is about a bunch of monster hunters who fight demons called Ku Kluxes, who take over and inhabit the bodies of white supremacists and use the Ku Klux Klan as like subterfuge. And a big bad is coming to get everyone, and this person has to fight them. And it's like mystical. It is weird. There's some body horror going on, and like Holy crap. Like I read the first 40 pages the first night and I had the most messed up dreams because I read it right before bed. And like that night I was like, oh my gosh, all my dreams are just really messed up. So
that is so interesting because I don't ever really remember my dreams, but I've heard other people say this about reading certain books that they're like, oh, I can't read scary books before I go to bed or whatever. But I feel like the books that scare me more are the ones that are very realistic, where there's stalkers, or like Misery by Stephen King.
I
That
could never
freaks
read
me
Misery.
out way more than It. Like that freaks me out so much more than It.
I read It. I will not touch Misery with a 10-foot pole. I'm sorry. Like, I can't.
Misery is so much creepier. It just is. I've read a lot of Stephen King. That's just a lot creepier.
Yeah.
Than Pet Sematary, than a bunch of his other ones. I'm sorry, people. It's creepier. And it's just the realisticness of it that
I would say Ring Shout just because like it does have like the whole racism.
I mean, there are a lot of contemporary things going on in that.
And it's like in the Jim Crow South, and like it layers in the history of like the resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan, and like it uses like demons and everything to get to that, and so it's fascinating and it's so good. So highly recommend. I also love his Master of Jinn work, so both of his books, great books, and they're both very different, so it's interesting.
I love when authors can write like super different books.
It makes me jealous.
Amazing.
Like, oh my gosh. As I try to write a romance after writing an entire fantasy novel. I also read Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. It is a short list for the Man Booker Prize. I'm trying to read a couple of those. And it was also a very short book, and it was phenomenal. You should borrow it. It's about a man in the 80s in Ireland. I don't know why that's such a big topic lately, but like there's been a ton of stuff with like Shuggie Bain, that's like 90s Ireland. There was like a Oscar contender that was, I believe, set in Ireland.
Interesting. Is it like
starring like Jamie Dornan or something?
Is it like the new World War II?
I think maybe a little bit. Like we're kind of looking at Ireland because it has like its own insulated political strife and everything with Northern Ireland and everything. We have Dairy Girls coming out, and so I think it's like a little bit of interest right now. But it's about a man who like grew up in a small town community and was kind of ostracized because he was technically born to a single mother, and it's kind of about these like Catholic organizations that are were terrible and were historically accurate to pregnant single mothers during that time. And it's a very interesting book. I really liked it a lot.
Cool.
And then I also read Blake Crouch's most recent book, Upgrade, which was really good.
I'm looking at your Goodreads right now. You give it 5 stars.
I did. I don't know if it deserved 5 stars. It might technically be a 4-star. I'm rethinking it a little bit. Just because a little bit was too schmaltzy, and I actually really wanted him to hit a little bit harder with this book, and I felt like he pulled a few punches. Like I honestly thought it would have been more interesting had it been a little bit darker at the end, and he kind of went for lighter, and it went for lighter in almost a way that I felt was almost unrealistic based on the rest of the book. Like the rest of the book was a very specific look at like in this book like there is a genetics act that like you can't make genetically modified things because geneticists were making things and doing things, and the main character's mother accidentally caused a huge famine by making genetically modified locusts, and then like she ended up killing herself, or did she, and he gets upgraded because someone like messes with his genes, and they make him like a better, like almost unlimited way person. If you ever saw those movies.
I have, unfortunately.
And it's kind of about like, should you upgrade all of humanity to get them to fix their problems? Or are humans inherently not going to do anything if they were smarter? And so it asks a lot of interesting questions.
I like a lot of those questions like that. I even have those types of questions when it comes to like genetic testing. I know like a lot of that stuff is coming out now where you can find out like, oh, you're susceptible to this, and this, and you may have this disease or this disease. And it's like, should we know, or are we better off, not
It's like,
knowing and finding out later, or
and
or
lots
is
of stuff
there a benefit to,
leads,
trying to improve your health? I don't know.
and a lot of it leads to things like eugenics, which is
Hmm.
not great.
Right.
And so there are certain things like that I don't think people really realize or
Hmm.
understand. And so I think it asked all those interesting questions, but then at the end, it
Sure.
kind of had like a little bit of something that I was just disappointed in the ending. I think I just
Do you think
thought,
that it was something, and I always wonder this too about books, because I know what you're talking about, where you get to the end and you're like, oh, I wish they would have done this or that. And you're like, if I'm thinking this, they definitely thought it.
mm-hmm,
So I wonder why they made that choice. And
right.
I often wonder if it's a thing where they like have readers give them feedback, or editors or whoever give them feedback, and then they're like, maybe I'll change it so it's like this, especially with a popular author like Blake Crouch is pretty popular. So
So I've read
you
two
wonder.
of his three novels. And a lot of times, like, I think Blake Crouch is a very interesting and very intelligent writer,
Hmm.
but I think he is an internally optimistic person.
Interesting. Okay.
And as someone who is a pessimist, I don't
Hmm.
always like agree with the way he turns his novels.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I sometimes feel like some of the relationships are a little one note. Like his
Sure.
first book, Dark Matter, a lot of it hinges on his like love of his wife, and like
Hmm.
it's about a man who like goes into parallel universes, and through it all
Hmm.
he's just trying to find one where he can live with his wife, even if that means taking out the other person in that
Hmm.
universe. So there's a lot of interesting things about like, well, we are following this one man, so do we root for him or do we root for the man
Right.
who existed in that universe? And what about all the other men who descend and want the same thing? And so it's like
Hmm.
interesting, but then like it's still this like bastion of goodness of this man who loves his wife, so
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
little, it's just weird. His books are good, but they're always a little bit bizarre for science fiction that I'm used to, because I like science
Yeah.
fiction a lot. I'm very
Hmm.
fascinated with science fiction, and I think Blake Crouch is an amazing author. I just think he's probably someone who's like, I'm not an optimist, and it's like, I think
Sure.
you are. Like, I think you're a
Right.
romantic
Right.
optimist. So
And that's fine. I
yeah,
mean,
and that's fine. But I guess he wrote Wayward Pines, and I'm like, I read Dark Matter, his first book, and it's like, that wasn't his first book, Hannah, but it was like the first like standalone that hit big.
yeah.
So
I have not read any of his work, but I know of him as an author because of Dark Matter and
right.
just seeing his name around. So that's why I said he was a popular author.
Yeah. And Wayward Pines was huge. So,
Sure.
but yeah, so I will save some of the other ones until I cover a trilogy that I've been listening to on audiobook. But should we dive into the plot?
Let's do it.
Uh,
Hold it up like Simba. We are holding our Burning God books up, both of us,
Not the
like
bottom,
Simba
penguins on the
in Lion King.
bottom.
The circle of life,
I can still recall our last
and
summer.
it moves us up.
So we are starting this chunker of a book that I think put Laura and I both into a reading slump.
I mean, I was in a reading slump already, and then this is just me. Here's my thing. I did not want to read this book. I have put it off for a long time because I didn't want to be done.
I know we've loved this series so much.
Yeah. I didn't want to be done. So I'm halfway through now.
Oh, you've now surpassed me.
There.
I'm 250 pages in. So oops.
I'm halfway, but I did not want to be.
I know. I don't want to be either. So but we start with the prologue, and we open on Dashi's point of view, where she and Riga.
I don't know how you say it. Actually, I haven't listened to the audio.
I haven't either, but I do believe it's Riga.
Okay.
Are preparing to become anchored to one another, and they're murdering a deer. Dashi is nervous because Severai's prophecies were pretty ominous about them. We learned about this in the last book, and saying that this will kill them. Riga states that's not exactly what she said, and it's too late to turn back now.
Loopholes.
He says loophole. He said the war has gotten too big, and it's too late to turn back now, and they have to do this. Zia, or Professor Zhang, comes up and pretends to be too far gone. It's noted Daji put opium in the deer to let it be lethargic so it wouldn't suffer, but it was still awake, and she wished they could have waited longer. Riga doesn't really remember the chance, and he tries to fumble his way through it. And then he makes Zia do it, and it's noted Daji almost wants to kill Riga and run away with Zia instead. Daji feels their feelings as they complete the ceremony. Zia is scared of what he will become and grateful to not have a choice anymore and be bound to them, because it takes away some of his choice, which is a very Rin-like statement there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who else does that sound like that just kind of wants the decision-making part to be taken away from her and be like, oh, this is what it is. I'm glad I didn't have to decide between two things.
Right. And he doesn't really want any of this. And then Riga is just excited that he gets to be more powerful. And Daji also wanted this. It's noted that years later, she can't remember ever feeling elated about this, only scared and with a sense of dread. Then she remembers the prophecy: one will die, one will rule, and one will sleep for eternity. We go over to Rin, who's fighting in the monkey province. She's having phantom limb pain from the amputation that we did not get to see, but they did have to amputate the hand from her injury in the last novel. She does feel a sense of pride fighting for her own people in the South. And the Southern Coalition is angry, and they're fighting embittered towards the Muganese, who are still occupied there. So they actually have like some righteous indignation that she's here for. Right. There is a discussion of her losing it. How they feared Katai would losing it, like she's going insane, but no, about losing her hand. It kind of does a flashback to why she lost her hand, and like them fearing Katai would lose his hand, which he didn't. But he still gets like weird little feelings in that hand, which is interesting. And he'll lose some like feeling in the hand from time to time. But he did make her cut off her hand after the infection failed to heal. It's noted that they must win Kudla, where they are fighting today. The monkey warlord is trying to remove her from a position of power, and he finally gave her a chance to fight, and she needs to liberate the city because she has no other options. She needs to be a leader. We hear about the Muganese semi-occupation because there had never been peace treaties, etc., after Rin destroyed their land. So Muganese are kind of just fighting anywhere for their power, and it kind of shows the disruption of Rin's actions in prior books. I also think it's fascinating to see some of that. The way that I kind of take it is like desperation of the Muganese, almost to try and get back to what they had after facing so much devastation. So fascinating. And it's almost like the discussion is how people who don't have power will try to fight for it in a war, to try to cling to anything that they can control, almost like all the issues Rin has had and can't see when she looks at people who aren't like her. So they are hidden and hear Muganese people walking around. They talk about going home, and it's noted that they always talk about this and how the moon is different up there from where they are now. And Rin notices that they're likely younger than she is in Katai, and that they too are scared, which is kind of hard for her to think about. And she kind of just doesn't have a ton of sympathy, even though it does turn her stomach a little bit. They agree to fight at dawn. Katai stays behind, and people notice because he doesn't fight, and they're like, well, he's a trained Senegadian soldier. And she's like,
he's just a smart guy.
He's a smart guy. He's a smart guy. He can't go into battle.
Not question us. Smart people don't go out there and fight.
It's not about me, guys. It's not about my death. Look away. Look over there. Don't look here.
I don't know why I always like picture Rin just like being over the top with like,
because she's in love with Neja, and we talk about Neja like this, and in order
Rin's gotta be like this.
That has to be like one of the worst couples you ever see at a restaurant. Like, why is our food taking so long? Oh my gosh, if it's not hot when it gets here,
babe.
I will send it back.
You like your water, babe?
I will send it back. There are too many ice cubes. I want my water lukewarm. Okay,
babe, is it lukewarm? When people overuse pet names like that, MG.
Babe. Oh my gosh.
Too much.
Okay.
Back to it.
Back to it.
Anyway, the burning god.
Anyway, Rin is fighting with Officer Shen, but she notes that she does like this person. They begin the battle with her relying heavily on fire. She can't really fight anymore because her hand throws her off balance. Sure. And it's noted that she really can't think about the people who are dying as actual people. We have a flashback to Alton talking to, there are so many flashbacks about Alton talking to Rin, and it's like their relationship has so many more conversations than we were made aware of. But
Alton, and it's one of those things too where you hit it right on the head, because you said that we're not made aware of this until now, and you're like, oh, I guess this kind of makes sense if we would have known this earlier, why she was having some of these thoughts, like maybe he was in love with you, maybe he was in love with me, and you and I were like, no, he was not.
And then it's like flashback to a very serene and beautiful moment between the two of them.
Context of them looking at a sunset together, maybe.
But also, like, again, in book 2, they're all like, you're no Alton, and it's like, yeah, Alton doesn't seem great in these passages. Like,
right.
Maybe Rin should have known.
I know. Maybe when they said that to her, she should have been like, you're no Alton. She'd be like, okay, I'm cool with it. Like,
okay, but back when we were looking at the sunset together in a very romantic way, we had this conversation. I don't think you want me to be like him.
Right.
Anyway, he's talking to her in this flashback about where Mugeni's people came from. It's noted that there are many theories, all of them plausible. But Alton wants to tell her a story, and she's like, oh God, it's probably not true, but he has to tell me. And then he says that there was a terrible ape, wonderful connotations for that was kept in the Red Emperor's palace that escaped after being a plaything in a cage and kidnapped the Emperor's daughter, which he later scrubbed the entire history of her from the records. Because she had given birth to the beast's offspring, and they were later pushed out of the island into Longbow Island, becoming the Mugenis. So they're literally animals, which is the complaint about how Mugenis treated them. So yeah, Rin wonders how the Mugenis could kill the Nikarans if they were beasts, and notes Nikarans think Spearleys are beasts as well and treated them as such. She wonders how you can be inferior and yet the victors. Apropos, she notes maybe no one is the beast, and you have to think that to make murder possible. We cut back in, and Rin is killing a soldier for the other side. She stops when she wonders if he is a Nikaran, but his accent tells her differently, and she murders him. Another flashback to Alton making her watch him burn a squirrel alive.
Poor squirrel.
He talks about how fire is an inefficient death because they never actually die by fire, and it's actually painless at the time of death, and that Spearleys were sent to terrorize and make victims suffer, so making them burn would not be the right answer. Rin catches up with the others, and there are people hiding out in the middle of the city. She doesn't know how many hostages they took inside, but she hopes not too many because they're about to die. She sends fire in and hears trigger warnings for murder and war and all the bad things, guys, because she sends fire in and they hear squealing and think it could be a woman or a child, but everyone screams that way at their death. We cut back over to Katai congratulating her. She notes he's in a lot of pain, much like he always is after being her flashlight, pretty much. Sorry, it's not a flashlight. They call him something else, but that's what I think of. She goes out to be viewed by the Kudla survivors, noting that many people who are liberated act the same about her. She has to prepare herself to be touched, reminding herself she isn't in danger because she has PTSD. She notes that they're always amazed she speaks their dialect. We have a discussion about the liberation because she's able to see how the Mugenis implement their measures in the city. This is just plot dumping, but they round
there's a lot of that in this first part.
Yeah, there's just a lot of like, here's the context for Alton and Katai and the Nikarans versus the Mugenis.
Right.
But anyway, they usually round up Nikaran men, march them to the killing fields, and shoot or behead them. Then they repurpose or strip away village infrastructure, and then they co-opt local leadership and utilize Nikaran collaborators who Rin hates the most for harming their own race. Katai wants lenience for these people and notes compliance has its place to save people pain, and it could have saved Gul and Nice, but Rin doesn't have the same respect for these people. However, usually villagers solve the problem for them because they will not forgive their own for what they have done. Rin goes searching for living people, and it's noted she finds someone chained to the floor, a rebel leader she had been looking for named Yang Suji. He is young, a few years older than her. He notes she is the spirally, and he thought she would be taller. Because we don't have Neja here to be awful. So
we need another man to put her down,
to come in and insult her and call her derogatory terms like princess. But this one's different because he used to be poor. We're working with Gilmore Girls rules.
Still good looking.
But still really good looking. Probably pale. I don't know. But he thought she'd be taller. She says she thought he'd be older, and he agrees they're both disappointments. He gets out of his chains using her picklock and is noticed.
Look on Hannah's face when she did that laugh.
So proud of myself.
Oh my gosh.
He gets out of the chains using her picklock, and it's noted that his right hand is missing the top joint, and his mother gnawed off the first joint on his middle fingers out of superstition after her other children died, because the gods wouldn't want a child with ugly hands.
Strange.
They're superstitious. So,
but why gnaw them off? There were no knives.
She didn't want to cut the baby's hand, Laura. I don't know.
I feel like knives would be kinder.
I agree with you. This is a very strange story, but they walk through the town, Rin's men gathering useful wares from the Muganese. It's noted Suji had kept them from being occupied for a long time, but the Muganese had gas. We found out Suji is a Synagard dropout and came home to the militia after he needed a paycheck. She's shocked he passed the Keju because, again, Rin always be underestimating.
This is annoying to me too. When I read it, she was like, "I can't believe you passed it," and it's like, "You did. And you were in a very similar situation." Good Lord.
I know. He states that Synagard didn't want him coming and going if he was going to put family first, and now his entire family is dead via the flood. Rin, we always get that
and Rin's like.
Every time the flood is ever mentioned, it's always like, that's not who did it. It's always like,
I won't mention who
it was the Empress.
But it was the Empress. And I had nothing to do with it. Neither did any of the psych.
Don't look over there. Don't look over there.
Yeah.
Why is Kaseki staying behind? Don't ask. God or Katai. Right. Like, no, don't ask me about that. These are not the droids you're looking for. And so he asks why she doesn't burn everyone in the South to get rid of the Muganese. And she said that she would literally have to kill everyone. And Suji is kind of like, yeah, maybe that would be better. Maybe the death of an entire nation is what we need. He wants to watch the world burn, as Regina George says. She also reflects on being limited with Daji's seal against her reaching the Pantheon, but that's in the back of her mind. She's not going to tell Suji about that. She returns back to the tent and gets high, much to Katai's chagrin. She goes up to the Pantheon chambers as far as she can go without where the seal is stopping her. Right. And she sees the creation of Alton. She has started talking to him over the past couple of weeks and months, and she talks to him, telling him about what happened. She shows him what he wants to see. She and Katai then discuss the Iron Wolves, who are Suji's men, joining up. She's annoyed because they think they're still in charge and ignore her. Rand is like the biggest, like, I should be in charge. And it's like, okay, but you have to get people to respect you. And she's like, they should just do it.
They should just automatically respect me and I will be in charge. But then the second that I'm put in charge, I'm going to immediately regret it and not want to be in charge.
Right. I mean, you just described me when I'm planning.
I was going to say, as I was saying it, I was like, this is Laura offering to run a committee, then immediately regretting it.
Laura, see that pot over there? It is also black.
Yes. I am a kettle.
Yes, you are. Same. We are both kettles. But anyway, Sushi asks them to take rice to him, and she is horrified they don't respect the communal kitchen. And Kataya is like, yeah, you kind of have to let them get away with shit because we still need them, and wants her to convince Suji to join them. She goes to him and she demands a walk. He calls her princess.
Haha. Okay.
Recently, Veronica said that anytime you and I bring up Neja, we both go, do a deep sigh. And I feel like Sushi is going to get that safe treatment from time to time. And he tries to tell her that she can now leave, and they were successfully liberated. She demands he join up, and he refuses, and she threatens him with fire until he agrees, and she like burns him on his neck. He does, and asks where they're going, and she says they're going back to Riordan. He asks her why they aren't going further south, and she said all the mutinies are in the Monkey Province. He assures her that she is wrong, and they are far south, and she notes that they're in Tikani. And Tikani, thank you. I don't know why my mind said that, but he agrees that that's where they are. Dun, dun, dun. They go back to Riordan with Suji making fun of Rin for getting lost. They arrive back and find out soldiers killed a tiger, plaguing the camp by feeding it a poison horse. I'm pretty sure that this is foreshadowing, but we will see. Rin wants to sell.
Also, I just thought it was interesting. I mean, it's obviously foreshadowing, but I thought it was interesting too. This is like the first time we've ever had wildlife mentioned. Like,
right?
That okay, now we're worried about tigers. Like that wasn't an issue before that they were breaking into camp, and like, I think that would have been an issue. But I'd be very scared if I was like sitting in the woods and had to deal with tigers as well.
I wouldn't.
But... You are brave.
I'm obviously joking. I just thought that would be really funny if I was just very, very assertive about how I could live.
I feel like from what I've seen, the tigers rarely do that, but they can get bold and come into areas where humans are. So
I mean, if there's a horse while I'm walking around, maybe
I mean, probably they would take another animal, but
Rin wants to sell land to Moag, and Kitai is like, dude, she'll use it for drugs. Don't do that. And she's like, but would that be the worst thing? I love opium. And he's like, yeah, it would be.
He's like, you don't need to do that. Like, just forget about that idea. That was terrible.
You are.
I am the strategist. You are not.
She goes and she talks to Zuden. It's noted that he isn't native to here, but was in a band after being a war orphan. He's a survivalist who wants them to move from Riordan, just like Rin, where everyone wants to be to stay safe. They note that Malin, a member of the Southern leadership, isn't doing well currently. They say something will happen to him if she can't get people to change their mind. Although Zuden notes that Malin wouldn't be doing well even without their intervention. So something's going to happen to that person. She goes and she talks to Lee Garuba. She notes he is condescending. He doesn't want her to lead, and he is calculating, just like the other warlords. She states she wants the army, and he has only given her a coalition. He notes she just burns things down and isn't as adept as she thinks she is. This book is all about like old guard versus new guard. Like they're like, you aren't as adept, and she's like, yeah, but you guys aren't doing what you need to do, and it's like both of you are right. She wishes she could kill him, but he obviously belongs there. He is from the south, grew up there, and didn't leave like Rin. Identifying themes of, placement abound. And so she gets an update that the North is busy with itself, Viceroy murdering other warlords. Benka is up there as a spy, which we forgot to talk about Benka in the last episode, in the character episodes. Yeah, I really like Benka. This is my short.
Let's just talk about it right now, really quick.
I'm just gonna say right now, Becca's pretty cool. I think her and Rin's relationship in book 2 is one of the most interesting
ones. About that in the last.
We talked about it in the plot episodes, but we didn't talk about it in the character episodes. So
well, consider it talked about, because we did talk about it at some point, so I don't feel bad about it.
No, but poor Venka. She always gets forgotten, even by us.
She is not forgotten.
She is not forgotten. I think she and Rin have the best chemistry of friendship.
Sure. Most interesting.
Yeah, they're the most interesting, and they have the best conversations. So, but she knows that Venka is a spy because no one up there will look at a pretty woman twice.
Which is they don't sadly true. But
she maintains that they need to hit the North while it's scrambling, and the monkey warlord disagrees. He says she needs to get the council on her side, and she says she'll keep bringing it up until someone listens. He goes, that's your prerogative. Somebody's like, well, we're going to keep ignoring you. I don't know. And she leaves wishing he would listen and she wouldn't have to force his hand. She goes and she kills the bandit thief chief, Ma Len. Everyone pretty much knows she's going to do it. When she sees him, she knows that when she asked for aid to go to Rooster Province, he had called her a bitch without experience, but failed to recognize that she wasn't going to be anyone else's pet. So she's kind of like, yeah, I have to kill you. And I feel bad that I have to kill a human, just not you. Like, I don't really care that I have to kill you.
It's one of the few times though that she's like actually thought about what she's doing, which is interesting for her character because it's different because it's like a one-on-one situation. She's like, I'm actually killing a person. Whereas before it was like, Rin, you killed an entire island of people. Right. So
well, and it's kind of her most underhanded. Like she's not usually someone who does this subterfuge because like she almost regrets that more than being rash because when you're rash, you can just like live with consequences. Yeah. But if you have to actively make that choice, sometimes it hurts worse. So she goes to the council and she asks for 2 coalitions to take to Rooster Province. They tell her that they are safe where they are, and the Rooster Province has already fallen to the Muganese, and she is horrified they knew and didn't tell her. They call her impulsive and that they couldn't trust her and that she will not lead and they can't give her the people she wants. At this time, she would want 2,000 at least. Then they found out Ma Len died, and she notes that there's a vacancy in the people he commands. Zudin says that they are now with her, and Sushi says he will assist as well if it means helping those in Rooster. She knows she has won this battle and can take them to get Rooster back. They march for the Rooster Province, wanting to take Liang, a large town and the structure of Muganese occupation they call the Beehive. It's noted that the Muganese have fully integrated into that location, making it harder for them because Rin can't just use fire to throw out everyone. They state that they want to use Sushi's connections to get people out of the area so Rin can use her fire to burn it all down. They want to move the Muganese out into open battles. Sushi comes in telling them they go about this like soldiers and that this isn't what they are right now. They are people who are trying to liberate others. So they have to be smarter and not just use Synagardian power. Ever since Rin has made her move, things have now changed. All the southern provinces want her to fail, seeing her as an inexperienced woman. And he notes she is inexperienced and needs to understand that this is about liberation and not war, and she needs to listen to others. And it's like, he's not wrong, but he's also kind of the worst.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, why does it have to be this way? Because it frustrates me, but at the same time, like, okay, I guess he's right.
So this is a wild thing, but I feel like in book 2, we would have been like, I kind of like Suji, but by now we're like, don't trust him. Get the heck out of here.
We've learned from experience.
Rin might not be as experienced, but now we are. So he tells them that they can't go in like a large army. They must cut through the forest and be smarter about this. While they are deciding, they see a small search party come from the area. And Rin is like, we can take them all down. And Sushi is like, not without my people. And he's like, Iron Wolves, pack up. And they all just disappear. And she's like, I fucking hate you. And it almost looks clear. She's horrified because without them, they can't fight. He gets her to hide everyone. And then they are able to overtake the people and kill all those who wouldn't have survived. He knows that this was the right choice because typically if a band like them saw the army, they would have sent someone back to let people know that there were people out here. Now there are 0 survivors. And she's like, oh, I guess he's right. He also starts teaching them how to scavenge for better food and how to trap birds. Sushi tells them to travel a bit more surreptitiously, to not play their entire hand. It's noted Rin strategizes for dominance and not for best options, which good on him for noticing, but I still don't like him. Right. He also uses deceptions of women going into the camps, going in dark and hitting small camps. Rin asks if they ever catch on, and he notes that they're convinced every Nikaran is a coward and they won't believe otherwise because of racism. Yeah. He notes that they aren't a conventional army, so they can't act like one. Katai and Rin thinks he's just trying to annoy them, but he notes that they have the upper hand by being able to move when Muganese need to stay put, and they can demoralize Muganese in this way. He notes that they read Sunji, Sunji. Yeah, Sunji. In a weird. Or is it
Sunji? Sunji, I think,
Sunji,
actually.
Yeah. He notes, he's like, you read Sunji, but you read it in a very straightforward way. And it doesn't mean that only conventional fighting is there, but you also have to use the power in any way they can. He notes Synagard only taught them to fight an ancient enemy, and Rin has to admit that his tactics work. And it's like, yeah, obviously, Rin, come on.
Right. And it's definitely, it made me think of, this is really a really bad example, but in the movie The Patriot, when they start using guerrilla warfare and everyone's like, what? How are they doing this? And it's like, because he's not just like walking up to people in a line. It's a lot more strategic and it's a lot smarter. How could you not have thought of this?
I admit that I've never seen The Patriot ever once in my life.
I mean, I think that's fine. I'm just recalling that specific point.
I'm going to say it here on the pod. It's going to be pretty controversial. Hannah will never watch The Patriot.
I don't think that's that controversial.
I know. So they end up.
It just made me think of that though, because like Rin and Katai are just like, what? This is the only way that you can do this. And he's like, no, guerrilla warfare actually really works.
It's almost like being a student and learning the theory of things. It's not actual practice.
Right.
Which we don't real teach effectively in university contexts. Like, how apropos. They get near the main village and Suji wants to warn the villagers. Rin thinks it's too dangerous and can put them on treacherous footing if they tell the Muganese, but he says that they have to try and his men aren't going to fight unless they do. Rin goes into town with Suji and she is astonished to see the Muganese integrated into the city with its people. There doesn't look to be a war. They go to meet one of the township chiefs, Lin Wen, to warn him about what is to come. The chief makes them remove their weapons. They're fed food and Rin goes to eat, but Suji stops her, indicating it should be left because if they don't touch it, the people will eat it later and they need it more than Rin. Right. But if she touches it, they will send it home with her due to etiquette. The chief lets them know that they are being blamed The chief lets them know that the townspeople are being blamed for Rin's army's actions. They shoot the men. One of the women has been shot and they offered a physician to look over the woman. Chief Len lets them know they will not do this. Compliance is the only thing keeping them alive. Rin is like, you're allowing your people to be slaves. And the chief is like, yeah, but we still at least have our men. He also states that everyone knows Rin is there and they know of her description. So the Muganese are burning any dark-skinned girl they see. The little girl is playing with their weapons and Suji gives her his weapon. Rin says that she can take them all down and that they're only killing all the girls because they fear Rin and this is what they need to do. The chief then tells her how many Muganese there are, 3,000 men, and they have calculated this because they make the townspeople give them grain. And he says to keep the fighting away from the township and then he will agree to their demands. On their way back, Rin is furious that they didn't give them any help, but Suji says he did by giving Rin's people permission. When she is angry, he points out that you need permission because they put civilian lives at stake and need to be respectful because they fight for the people in a liberation. Rin is like the most...
It's one of those things where it's like all throughout this, Rin and Katai and all the other people that were at Synagard have been like, oh, it's all about the people. It's all about the people. But they have no thoughts for the people at all. So finally in this third book, we're getting Rin's point of view where she's finally learning, oh, I have to think about the people.
Right.
So this is it.
Like, it's great to have Sushi as a character. I just wish we'd had him like a book or two ago. Like it's a little too late at this point where it's like, yeah, obviously.
It's very on the nose.
Yeah. They meet up with the chief's son who wanted to meet Rin.
Well, he like comes out and finds them.
He's like, I wanted to meet you guys. My father is a coward and I want to help because
we want to fight. There's a lot of people that want to fight.
He says that his father has sentenced all the people to a living hell, and he notes villagers have tried to hide women, and women are being suffocated in their hiding places, and like his father just doesn't understand the need to fight. Rin realizes that this was never about permission, but validation to absolve the guilt of those who have remained alive and who may need to fight. The son wants to fight and offers to help. They note that women are in the mess and they will fight if they can. Rin tells him to keep the countrymen safe, and that is everything he can do. That's how to help. They return to camp and get things settled and prepared for battle, and they keep communicating to get all the civilians out. Rin goes into her tent and she finds a letter from fuckboy Neja. It's
I just did that big sigh.
I know you did.
That was for you, Veronica.
I love this part so much because like Neja's like, I sent you a letter, and then it's a letter from her brother Kasegi, and Kasegi is like, I don't know why they're making me write this letter. You don't even know my handwriting. It could be from anyone. It's like, leave it to this child in prison being like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. How dare you?
Which I'm glad that he said it, because I thought it. How would she know what his handwriting looked like?
Right. And he was just like, they're making me do this. And then they had scratched out entire sections because he was like,
it literally says, this is Kasegi if you hadn't pieced that together. Like,
and he's like, I'm supposed to tell you that if you give up, they will let me live. I think, and then it's just like all scratched out. So you can tell he's like, just fucking let me die. I don't care. She runs to Katai and tells him about it, saying it has to be Kasegi because no one knew about Kasegi. I mean, and it's definitely the most Kasegi letter ever. Just like, it's me. She says that they shouldn't respond. She knows Neja wants him to go out, or she wants her to go after him. She notes the issue is actually Neja has placement and is in reach to put this letter in her tent. That means that they are in the south. Katai thinks he isn't and just wants to mess with her head. There's also a letter from Neja noting that the war benefits no one and they need to come together because Hesperians are watching. Okay, that was a real sigh. He understands the hatred and is not blind to their intentions, but he doesn't want foreigners to rule the land. So they have to agree to his father and him because they're the best option. He asks for quote unquote reasonable terms, a truce, demobilization, disbarment, and Kasegi's return to Rin. The Southern Coalition can walk free or join up. She isn't mentioned. And she's like, yeah, you're gonna experiment on me. Which like
he says at the end, I need you at my side.
Okay, and it's so dumb because like I do think we don't really focus in enough on like Rin never asks like, should I just kill myself and let people like have peace? Like it's always this very much like, no, I must survive at all costs. And it's a very interesting take. Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like if I were her, I don't know if I would have been so quick to be like, I'm just gonna take myself out because I'm ruining everything. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's difficult.
I think I'm pessimistic enough to be like, I don't want to be experimented on. And if I could stop a war,
people are prone to trying to survive. That's kind of within our nature.
It's just an interesting take because like people end up, spoilers to the end of part 1, but people are like, hey, we found out that like all we had to do was like give you over and you just wouldn't do it. And it's like, she didn't think that would look bad once people found out about it.
Yeah.
She's just like, let's burn it. Let's bury my head in the sand and we'll move on from there.
Yeah.
And it's like, Rin, come on. So it says that Katai states it looks like Neja won't hand her over to the Hesperians, but Katai thinks Neja knows he can't exist as a shaman safely with the Hesperians, so he may be willing to go against them. But she says she knows he thinks they're abominations, and so she will never be safe, that he will hand her over readily. And she refuses to even think about saving Kasegi. She says she won't be looked at kindly if she throws everything away for one person. To the man she often throws things away for.
She'll throw it all away for Neja, but
he knows that they have a battle to win and they burn the scroll. They prepare for battle. The chief indicated that they must distinguish themselves, so they mark themselves with clay. She prepares for battle and hears the phoenix, which is also weird because like sometimes she can hear the phoenix and sometimes she can't because of the seal. I don't know. They get ready, but realize someone tipped off the mutinies. They have their weapons at the entrance of the village, making it impossible for the villagers to get out like they agreed upon. They feel it is a stalemate, but then the chief's son mobilized the villagers to fight for their lives, and they march against the mutinies. The troops run in, and Rin realizes they don't fight with blades, but with bodies. The South has many bodies who are willing to die for their land, which I do like that theme.
Yeah.
They win and they have to start cleaning up the bodies. Rin feels a sadistic glee similar to the one she felt as a child when she saw ants die and wonders what's wrong with her. The Yang isn't completely lost. The survival was high because Muganese were frenzied in their safety. Rin finds the chief's son. He says he told her they'd fight. We get a bird's eye view of what happened after the battle run. The Muganese are tortured in the streets. It's noted that many of the villagers and collaborators are also punished. One group of people traded girls to the Muganese, keeping young girls and pregnant women safe, but usually giving poor ones and orphans away. Rin kind of asks around, being like, are they going too far to Sushi? And he's like, really? And she realizes she doesn't have the right to judge people, but feels different with civilians doing it to other Nikarans. Sushi points out her hypocrisy, that she doesn't know what these people went through. Rin understands the catharsis on some level, but Katai wants it to end. Sushi is like, we can't help it. They chose their path. They could have died instead of living and like hurting their own people. Katai notes that they are doing it to everyone and creating a frenzy. And Sushi does not care at all.
Right.
Yeah. Benka suddenly arrives. They go to see her. She broke her cover because a woman tried to ice her out of other households because her husband wanted to start an affair with Benka. And Benka was like, I didn't want your dirty old husband. She asked about Neja, and according to the rumors, he isn't doing well in the palace. Rin asks about Neja. Benka asks why, and they don't tell her about the letter because they don't fully trust her, which is a shame because she has not done anything wrong.
But I mean, I get it too.
I get
like
it.
You don't know.
You never know, but it just makes me sad because, she
has helped them a lot and everything. So
she sees all the people around going completely mad. Venka notes that people are being filleted, and Rin says that they tried to trade girls for rations. And Venka's like, cool, I hope they get castrated as well.
She's like, oh, fair enough. Okay.
All right, I get it. A woman tries to sell Rin 2 girls as prostitutes. Rin gets rid of her and has the girls join up as soldiers, telling them that they will get food. They get to Takani and they note that the Muganese have terrorized it and then fled. It was completely hacked away. Most tells them to send 12 troops, women, hopefully, so that they can try to find anyone. They don't have any bodies, and she knows they planned to stay there before they knew she was coming. She sees people, tells them that they're free. She tries to find Tutor Feyric, and she cannot. She goes to the Muganese quarters and finds a man's old love letter from one of the head guys. They had been here about 3 months. Sushi says that's how long they kept track. Rin feels guilty for not coming sooner. She finds the sex worker houses, and Venka is trying to force people who were harmed to eat. Venka tries to hit a girl when she tries, and Rin tries to step in, and the girl says that and Venka's like, I understand where you're coming from. The same thing happened to me. And the girl's kind of like, well, then we both should be dead. And Venka hits the girl. Rin realizes that Venka is going through a lot after leaving her own province, fighting and seeing the horrors of war. So Rin tries on empathy. She tries to be sympathetic, and Venka is like, no, I'm trying to give them strength so they don't kill themselves. You don't get it.
These moments we get with Venka are really raw and hard.
I agree. It is. She's one of the deeply most interesting characters because we only kind of get drawn in and out of her. And we only get to see her handling the depths of her trauma, unfortunately. And Rin is kind of like, okay, I kind of get it. And Becca tells her that she needs to burn down the houses where they kept the girls. And Rin is kind of like, this is a useful space. And Becca's like, you do it or I do it. I don't give a crap. And then a scout comes and gets Rin, and she goes to change because she is about to go to the killing fields, and Katai kind of wants her to stay out of this, to not go there. And it's noted that Southerners don't get buried. Southerners don't get buried, right? They get burned.
They were burned.
Yeah. Southerners get burned, so they need to clear out the killing fields.
Which is interesting because they mentioned that that's an unclean way to dispose of the dead.
Right. But Rin says she like has enough respect for the southern province to give them their dying wish. And so they start digging people up, and they note that they still have like jewelry, hair, and teeth. So they will find out who is there. And Kataya is like, "Are you looking for someone?" And she's kind of like, "No, Tutor Feyrick is gone. I wouldn't."
Yeah, she kind of like comes to terms with like, I guess I'll never see him again.
Right, which is sad.
It's interesting to me that she's held on to him out
I
of
know.
all of these people. You know what I mean? And maybe that's just because the interaction we get with him is so brief in the first book.
But her
I'm like,
interaction with him is brief. Like she spends time studying with him, but that's really all.
I know, but it just
Yeah.
seems so brief to us because it's just like such a brief part in the book. But I guess if you're thinking about the amount of time, it is a lot of
There's
time
a
that they
couple
spend
of
together.
years.
But
Well,
it seems
and
brief to us.
if you think about it, like Rin is also someone who attaches herself to authority figures, and he is one of
Sure.
the first
First
authority
ones.
figures.
Yeah.
So he probably does hit
And
the
he hasn't
deepest.
really become someone that's really betrayed her.
Exactly. Like
and
he
her
hasn't been with her
feelings
long
or-
enough to
yeah.
disappoint her yet. And so as they're like digging everyone out, she finds a boy who is still alive.
Mhm.
Rin goes, or Katai's kind of like, "There's nothing left here. You have to get back." And she kind of says that she kind of sends him back, and she tells him she has to do this. She needs to kind of find absolution in the killing fields. And she kind of needs to just be around it. And then all of a sudden, this girl comes up, and Rin chases after her. And she asks the girl how many there are of her, and she says that there are 3, and Rin finds them, and they kind of come up, and one of them like appears to be the girl's mother. And Rin kind of introduces herself. The woman is like figures out who she is, and she's like, "You're the Spirally." And she's like, "Yeah, they're all dead, they're all gone." And the woman admits that they ran when the Muganese were coming, and she had heard what they had done to Nikaran women. And she's like, "Are these your children?" And she's like, "No, they're just 2 girls who I took care of."
She's like, "They just lived on my street."
Yeah. And then she says that the lady in the hut kept them safe. And she says that the girl says that the woman in the hut protects them. She knows things. She tells them where to hide and what roots to eat, and that she won't leave. And they ask why she can't leave. They say because she lost her daughter in the Dragon King's palace, and she's waiting for her to come back. And Rin realizes who she is, and she's like, "Take me to her." And she says she needs to know what Sudaji wants. So she is kind of like, if Katai knew what I was doing, he would call me an idiot.
Yeah.
And
which I still don't understand this anchor twin thing, because I'm like, would he kind of be able to feel her being like,
it feels like they never actually feel each other's feelings. It feels like it's like if we're close enough, we can feel each other's pain, but only because my wound equals your wound.
If we're about to die, I do need you to be like, it's okay for us to separate.
Have you ever seen the movie Dragonheart?
No.
I think it's Dragonheart Rules. You should watch it sometime.
Okay.
It is hysterically a stacked cast. Like it has like Sean Connery as a dragon. And oh my god, who are our friend Bobby and I love these movies so much. Sean Connery plays a dragon named Draco. It has Dennis Quaid. It has David Thewlis, and it has Jason Isaacs. Like it is a stacked cast, and it is about a prince who like it's about the last of the dragons, and a prince almost dies, and Dennis Quaid is his knight, and he gets a dragon to split his heart in half and give it to the prince. But then the dragon and the prince are connected. So if one of them is hurt, the other one is hurt, but they actually don't feel anything the other feels unless it's like pain. So it's like, if I burn, you burn. And so it is a very funny movie, and they've made like 8 spin-offs, and none of them are good besides the first one, which kind of slaps. It's just a weirdly stacked cast. Yeah, it is very good, and I enjoy it very much, but it's very silly. Everyone watch Dragonheart. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's in 1996, and it was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. But anyway.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it won an Academy Award. I was like, what? This won an Oscar? You're kidding me? What was happening in 1996?
I'm sorry, but like Dennis Quaid is like running around.
It was Dennis Quaid. That's what was happening.
It was like Dennis Quaid, but like David Thewlis has an accent. Sean Connery has his accent. Dina Meyer is American as well. Like it's just like a mass amount of random people. And yeah, Dennis Quaid makes friends with the dragon. It's very funny.
Okay.
Anyway, so she comes and she sees Sudaji, who has like gotten very, very old, and she has like lost all of her like shining appearance, and her visage is no
beautiful
longer
anymore.
Oh my god. And then Dashi is like, go back to the village, run. And it says they scatter. And so Rin threatens her and she's like, break the seal. And Dashi is like, I can't. And she kind of thought Sork and Sierra could have done it for her. And she's like, you won't torture me. You're not Alton. And Rin is like, I'll torture you. And Dashi's like, no, you won't. And
she's like, I've been trying to break the seal for a long time. Been trying since you were born. All of your threats are dumb.
Yes. And she's kind of like, I don't know what to do. And Dashi is like, yeah, you still need me. You need to take me back with you. And Rin is kind of like, how did you know I'd come back? And she's like, all you Spearleys are the same. You all crave home. And Rin is like, this isn't my tribe. They're all dead. And Dashi's kind of like, that's not true. You're in the South now. It's part of you, and it's part of your founding myth. And then Katai is kind of like it smash cuts to him being like, this is insane. Why are you letting her sleep here?
I can't believe she's here. We have to sleep here.
And Rin's like, she's not our enemy. And he's like, what are you talking about? We fought her in the last book.
She was definitely our enemy in the last book. That's why we did this whole thing. You're telling me, Rin, that we didn't need to be anchor twins.
And then Katai is like, she killed my father. And Dashi is like, I didn't kill your father. He was a faithful servant and war killed him.
It was a travesty that he had to go.
And then Katai's like, you're a monster. And she's like, well, I studied with the Catraids and I know more than you. And I've already fought a war against the Hesperians and don't mess with me. And Rin is like, just hear her out. And Katai is like, you do this every time. So bad.
You always trust an authority figure, Rin, and it never works out well for you.
Katai's like, we've been doing well enough without her. And Rin's like, no, we haven't.
And then here comes something really wild. Sudaji's like, you know what we all need? To just train everyone to be shamans. And I'm like, that's what you're gonna do? Like, oh my.
And Rin's like, we don't have time for that. And Katai's like, this isn't happening. What's going on?
And Sudaji's like, you guys spent way too much time doing like silly stuff, and we just get like back to basic. We can train thousands of people to be shamans. It's not going to take any time at all.
She's like, you know what we need here? Religion.
30-minute seminar, and we've got it down.
You can be a diamond level dragon emperor. You sign up in the next 20 minutes.
You too, maybe a shaman.
And Katai is like, we need to get her out of here. She's manipulating you. She's the worst. And Rin is like, I don't know.
She left her Herbalife all over the place. Like, I can't handle it.
She was evil for the last 2 novels, Rin. And Rin is like, I don't know, maybe he's right. And it's like, Rin, you know.
And then Daji's like, you can't hide in every battle to Katai. And he's like, oh my gosh, you people.
And then Katai is like, think of what you're doing. Think of all the people who are stuck in that mountain who are living with like this evil inside them, and you're going to make all these people sign up for it so that they can win a war. Isn't that unethical? And it's like, that's a fair point, but also you are in a war that's very complicated. And she's like, well, this has been done before. And he's like, never by us. Like, we can't unleash all these people. We can't do what we're doing. He kind of throws Neja in her face, saying that like she pushed him too far, and it's her fault that Neja like ended up getting all this power and had these like snaps. And she's like, that is not true. He wanted people dead. Like, how dare you? And Katai also, like, I feel bad because I love Katai, but he always brings up Golan Nice as like the shining gold star of like, I've suffered too. And she's like, not in the way any of the other people we are talking about have suffered.
She's like, even me, just myself, have suffered more than you in every situation that we can talk about. Like,
and then he also points out, like, I had the Phoenix ripping through my soul to help you. And she is like, crap. And
it's kind of one of those situations where she feels a tremendous amount of guilt for bringing him into this. And then he, in turn, likes to wield that guilt in a way to kind of get his way in some of these arguments. And it's not necessarily fair.
But also, he is the one suffering through those things. So it is his, it's hard.
It's tricky.
Because he tries not to push it on her, but then when he does, it's wields it as a weapon. So it's not great.
Yeah.
So anyway,
especially when it's a situation where it's like, well, you consented to this and you wanted to do this. So
exactly. So, but also you always sign up for something when it seems, morally just, and then the ramifications are not always. And so Rin kind of walks through Tikani alone. She's trying to remember that this is for people. And she goes and she meets the boy who should have been dead. And he says his name is Zen Dulin. And she's like, it looks like you got lucky. And he's like, yeah, sure.
Okay.
And she's like, hey, this food has salt in it, because he's trying to like starve himself. And then he eats a little bit. He says he forgot how salt tasted. And he talks about like how desperate they got with the tombs and trying to like eat things like off tombs, pretty much. His father.
Yeah, they were like scraping stuff off of tombs in order to like get food for some taste.
Yeah. And she kind of says like, you have to remember this because like, or he asks to tell her what happened. Oh, I'm sorry. No, she asks him to tell her what happened because she has to hear it. And he kind of goes through all the trauma. And he talks about how he had to like pretty much pretend he was dead.
Yeah.
And he kind of wishes he were dead now, that it should have been him. And then life returns to Tikani that night. People are celebrating. And they like kind of bring Rin in because they're like, you have to be a part of this. She sees the women dancing, and they're all dancing at Suji because he's hot to trot. And then he like gets rip roaring drunk. They have a lot of talks about like liberation and joy. And then she's like trying to get him back to the general complex. He keeps calling her princess, and she loves a good man who puts her down. So she almost feels something for him, and then she like shuts it down. He realizes
she's like tempted. She's like, maybe I could do this, but then she's like, oh, better not. I guess not.
And he is like, oh, are you a virgin? And she was like, shut the fuck up. And he's like, oh yeah, you are. And then he realizes she has no womb. He says that it's a pity because she could breed, amazingly.
And, you have more spearlies. Oh.
Yeah. And he offers to have sex with her. And she's just like, get away from me. And then she hears a faint whining drone, and she realizes that it is one of the Hesperian machines. And she sees that they're attacking, and they're kind of hitting where the fires are.
Right.
So she tries to go running to like stop all of this. And like,
she's looking for Katai, but
oh yeah, she's looking for Katai. And she sees like exploded bodies, and like Suji has to kill one of his men. And so they're trying to get him away, or they're trying to like save Rin, and she's trying to get to Katai this entire time. But then it starts like raining horribly, and she's like, "Uh-oh."
She's like, Neja can control the weather.
Neja, whose powers flowed from the sea. And all of a sudden it's dark, and she like can't get to Sushi, and she's like, I have to find Neja, because of course she does. And since when could he?
There's also
summon
a
the
moment
rain?
too where she has like a thought where she's like, I know he put that letter in my backpack, but I had no idea that he like knew exactly where I was. I'm like, what would make you think that he wouldn't know where you were if he was putting letters in your bags?
We never said Rin was the smartest, okay? And then she runs into Neja, and he's like at the height of his abilities, and like this is a huge war. And it says that like he feels he's doing this out of nobility as a Republican soldier. And it's like, oh my gosh, the rain is parting for him, and her like back
She's
aches
like,
where he stabbed
Venka
her.
said you were sick, but you look super hot and older and really strong, and like you're gonna take over all your family's inheritance. Like, what?
And it always talks about like his porcelain skin that's shattered, and it's like he still looks hot. He didn't change his face at all.
He healed so quickly.
And then he's like, what happened to your hand? And it's like, what is this? You have intel. You had a letter in her bag, and they didn't tell you she was.
Forgot to mention that she was not. Oh my gosh.
And then he's like, come quietly, come with me. And she's like, no.
Well, she says to him, she goes, you're going home in a coffin.
And so he's trying to like hit her, trying to like stab her, and the rain stops. The pressure's gone because he's so focused. Oh, and they had hit her with opium as well, so it was harder for her to make fire. And he like disarms her easily, and he tells her to come with him. And she says, you should have killed me at Arlong. And he starts choking her. And she hits him in the face with a stone. She goes to kill him, but she can't really do it because it's Neja. And then she has like,
she's ready to like take a blow to him, and she's like, I can do it, just one blow to his chest. But then she's like, no, I can't do it.
She has to run away from the machine. And they don't come after her, and she's like, what? They didn't even try. And she kind of just lays there, and we realize that they took Katai and left her, which doesn't make sense. Like, she was literally in the bushes. Like,
I think the thing is they've kind of figured out like it's easier to get her. I mean, this happens in all sorts of stories, so it's one of those situations where it's like it's easier to get her to come to us if we take something she loves than it is for us to just take her.
But also, she was like right there.
I know it's just a romantic plot line where it's like it's much more romantic if she has not that her and Katai are romantic, but just that the storyline itself is more romantic if she has to come and save someone that she loves.
And so Venka's like, he's gone, and Rin is freaking out. She can't reach the fire.
Which is interesting because like, okay, so this is conditional too on like location. You guys have to be close to each other for this to happen, because Shagan and Kara, they were able to use their powers when they were like really far apart when they were doing stuff with the psych. Like Kara was with the psych,
but they didn't have a seal on them. Like she needs to go through Katai because of the seal.
Okay.
So it could be a proximity thing with the seal,
I guess. So, it's pretty hard to figure out.
I just like the dismissive, I guess.
It's hard to figure out.
I mean, fair enough. So Rin is like so horrified. She knows she has to give orders. She hears Alton being like, don't be pathetic. So she can still hear Alton, even though, whatever. And then she's like, I have to go find Suji. And she's like, find him for me right now. And the Iron Wolf seems to be deciding something if he should listen to her. She goes to the general complex and she's trying to like figure out a strategy to go get Katai. And she's trying to like figure out how the airships work because like it's almost impossible to breach them. And one of the Iron Wolves comes and he's like, hey, or it's the same one. And he's like, hey, he wants you to come to him. And she's like, oh, so stupid. And she goes and she's pissed and the monkey warlord is there. And she is upset and he's like, we have much to discuss. And she's like, oh my gosh, you don't even deserve to be here. And he's like, we're actually lucky. My troops came just in time. Without us, hundreds more would be dead. And she was like, oh, so you're just going to hide until you could come in and claim the victory? And he's like, well, this isn't really a victory, is it? And then Suji comes in, followed by Iron Wolves and Zudin's junior officers. And Rin looks at them in surprise. She'd been waiting for them. And she kind of realizes that they're about to take over. And she tries to fight them, but she can't. And Suji is like being condescending and they're like, hey, why don't you tell us? Neja said we pretty much just have to hand you over and then we can walk away. And she's like, are you guys idiots? He's not going to let you walk away.
She's like, he's a liar. He's not going to do that.
And they're like, well, we're going to take our chances with him. And it's like, why? This is a dumb idea, but okay. And they knock her out. She is lying on the same floor when she awakes. And she realizes like everyone was beating her long past when she woke up. And they are about to come in and get her. And she hears that the young marshal wants them alive, meaning Neja. Dashi comes in and she's like, and someone's like, who's the old hag?
Suji says that.
And Dashi is like, well, you can't kill her. She's a manifestation of the gods. If you hurt her, the god will come flooding through her. Have you ever encountered the phoenix? And Rin's like, that's not true. And then she realizes Dashi's just trying to convince them.
It's like, Rin, keep your mouth shut. Do not reveal that's not true. Because you can totally see Rin being like, that's not how it works. I have to call the god and I can't right now.
And then she realizes that Dashi is trying to like get everyone to believe her and get her out of here. And she convinces them to take her to a mountain in Snake Province. And Rena's like, oh my God, no. And Dashi, they're like, who are you? And Dashi's like, I'm just a woman who's seen a little bit of the world. And Dashi says that like, don't worry, Neja will like their report. And he's weak and he's ailing. So like, you must trust her instead. And they all kind of agree with her finally, and they are going to take her to Tlu Creek. And she tries to lift her head to say something, and she hears someone say, don't think, give up, darling. Trust me, this is easier. This is so much easier. And with that cliffhanger, we are done with part 1 of the Dragon Republic.
The Burning God. The Burning God. It's the Burning God.
Dang it, every single time. I always misread. But yeah, that is thoughts so far.
I mean, I like it.
I know. I really like this book, but so many funny parts. Suji sucks.
It's one of those things where it's like, you can't think too hard about some of these things, similar to most fantasy, where it's like, don't think too hard about this because you need to
don't look directly at it.
Yeah, you need to kind of suspend your disbelief about some of these things in order to get through it.
I would agree. And you guys, I hope you guys are enjoying this. I can't believe this is the last book.
No.
It'll be really sad. So guys, everyone's homework is to read part 2 before next week. And then go watch Dragonheart. We're a little bit loopier. It's been a while since we did a plot episode.
Your homework is to read part 2.
And then Your homework is to watch Dragonheart and then go rate, review, and subscribe. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing is a great way to get people to join in on this wonderful conversation as we close out our burning through the Poppy War. And also follow us on Instagram or Twitter at Our Pod. That's OWWR Pod. And make sure you're participating in our indie mission, guys.
Woo-hoo! Support those indie authors.
Go buy every single one of their books and show them some love on Twitter or Instagram.
There's also an audiobook deal on Amazon. So some of those books were cheap if you wanted a
If you need to save a little bit of money, you can get some cheaper audiobooks and they're all amazing. We can't wait to read every single one of their works, and everyone's been so lovely in the voting. So make sure you guys are participating in all of that. And you guys can also email us your thoughts about the Burning God or anything else at our pod. That's OWWRpod at gmail.com. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.